Welcome everyone to another Monday Win by Noon weekly webinar. I'm Todd Bookspan, the founder of Win by Noon, and I'm super happy you are here. I almost was going to sit down and do this, but I'm like, no, I won't have enough energy. I'm even going to be sharing my screen, so I may be giving us an earthquake when I start moving the computer around. But I am fired up as always to have you all here. So if you saw the title of today's webinar, it's really completing your monthly review and setting your month ahead action plan. And I just thought this was a perfect day to do it. I've got lots of seasoned Win by Noon users who still don't actually complete their monthly review. And I've got a lot of new users who are like, hey, Todd, how do you do your monthly review? So I thought I would just knock it out for all of you here. I don't think it's going to take more than, I don't know, we'll see. I don't think it'll go more than a half hour. And my goal is always to keep these as short as they need to be, but as long as they have to be to make sure that I answer all of your questions. And so really, I'm going to share my screen real quick, and I'm just going to talk about monthly review. So in theory, if I can find the right thing to share, I just had it shared a minute ago as I was practicing. Where did you go? Where did you go? That is not it. All right, I'm losing my mind. That's okay. This would be one of those things where, why do I not see preview? All right, I swear I'm going to find it in 1 second. That is really bizarre. It does not want to share that thing, which was just up a minute ago. Why? Well, there it is right there. Look at that. I found it. All right. So this is the real estate agent version. So you could be a loan officer, you could be insurance agent, you could be a real estate agent, or you could just be someone else watching this. But ultimately, in the end, the weekly review is kind of the same. So hopefully, can someone tell me in the chat that you guys actually see my screen and you can see something that says weekly review? That would be fabulous. If someone would be so kind. Oh, look at that. You guys are awesome. Look at all you people. See, you guys are a bunch of overachievers. Well, at least 4 of you are, because 4 of you responded. And so, you know, the premise of growth is not just looking forward where you're trying to go, but it's also learning from the past. And so that's why we do a weekly review, monthly review, quarterly review, all of those things, right? I like that, Larry. Thanks. Larry's an over-underachiever. That's perfect. I can relate to that more than you know. Personal experience. But I really believe that that's, you know, we all know that success leaves clues, but I think the past is really where you get those clues of success from. And so we've got to look at it. And it's, what's the best way to put it? I do the weekly review and I do my monthly review, and I actually do a pretty good job, but there's a couple things that aren't that important to me personally that you guys have asked for that we put in the planner. And so remember that there's no perfect way to do this. Remember, there's not just one way to do it. It's whatever way is your way, right? I guess your way, I should point at you, right? Whatever way you are going to choose to do it is the way that you should get it done. And so really got to start off with wrapping up your weekly review. So weekly reviews, you guys should be doing every week. Now, why do you total up things every week? You total it up every week because it makes it a heck of a lot easier to total it up at the end of the month, right? What I tend to find is that in the weeks where I'm a slacker and I don't total up my activities for the week, it's more of a pain in the backside to go back later and add those numbers up. It's part of the reason that my team does a weekly call, or they do a daily call every day, but every Monday they give the numbers from the week before. Well, why? Because if not, then they probably wouldn't add them up. Maybe not ever, but hopefully they would. But in the end, that's the whole key. So you always want to make sure you're doing your weekly review before you do your monthly reviews. And then remember, you're going to have in every quarter, you're going to have, there's 13 weeks in a quarter, right? 52 weeks in a year. So you're always going to have 2 months that have 4 weeks and then a month that sort of has a 5th week, right? Which means that just kind of the weeks straddle. So like, this is a weird one right now because ultimately we have, today's the 31st. I can tell you, I totaled my numbers up for the month through yesterday, which is a little bit weird because any activities that I do today, I'm actually going to be counting towards next month. And in the end, really, I'm just looking for the best average for the year. Will some people actually make it through today and make it an exact month? Yeah, that's great. Knock your socks off. I've got no problem if you do that because there's no perfect way to do it. Just be consistent with how you do it. And so really all you're going to do here is you're going to go in and you're going to total everything up, right? Total up. Again, if you're a loan officer, this is going to look a little different than this one, but if you're a real estate agent, you're just totaling up your, all of the activities that you did, and then you're going to total up all of your results. Again, habits of success, you're going to total those up too. Like I didn't total up the number of social media posts I did last month when I did my monthly review. Should I have Probably, but I'm not tracking that on a daily basis. I'm just making sure that there's the certain key webinars that I'm doing and those get posted out to the world, and that's what I'm tracking. But if you're committed to social media, so I've got a lot of members in my operating system group, coaching group, who have committed, hey, I'm going to post 3 times a week. Well, then if you're one of those people, you should be absolutely posting it here. And so really all you're going to do is you're going to go post your activities for the month. Now, in theory, you have a number that you picked that you were shooting for, right? Because again, up above, you'll notice it doesn't have your monthly goal and your monthly total. But when you go back up here, you can see that each week you've got a goal and you've got a total. And so as I'm going through my each week, I'm looking at it and saying, how did I do, right? For me, you guys have heard me say before, I set a standard for myself. This is the standard number of calls I'm going to make a week. And this is the standard number of conversations I'm going to make in a week. All right, my quality conversations. And that's really just so you know, because my calls to quality conversations are almost equal, I really focus on who do I talk to in a week. I feel like I'm going to close more transactions if I talk to more people. And so that's, for me, that's my driving lead indicator, right? But I still look at the call number and I still make sure that I'm doing that. In fact, I make, I really, I was going to use the word anal, but that's not the right word to use. I'm very specific. I look at both, but if I was going to weigh one for me, ironically, last year I weighed calls more than I weighed conversations. In 2022, I'm personally weighing my conversations. Really, I call it my connections, right? It would be a combination of quality conversations and then live meetings, which for me are all on Zoom. And I would combine those two. And I'm looking at how many people do I connect with to see what it takes me to get to a closed transaction. Hopefully that makes sense. And again, if it's not making sense, ask me questions. So we're going to total up each week, and then we're going to total up the month. And then you can decide whether it's too soon to do conversion rates or not. I'm a big believer in conversion rates because it tells me how am I doing, right? So if I'm a real estate agent, I'm going to be really concerned about my lead, my lead to presentation, right? My lead to close, my presentation to close, right? Those are things I would care about. As a loan officer, I'm going to care about my lead to app, my app to pre-qual, and pre-qual to close, right? You're gonna be looking at all of those. And so that's why they're on here. And that's why there's a blank 1 or 2, depending on your planner, that you can fill in for yourself. But these are the areas where you can measure, how am I doing to what I was doing last year? Why would that matter? Well, that's how you're going to detect a shift. So midway through last year, some of you have heard me tell the story that I was able to detect a slowdown in my team. Outside of the obvious, right? The obvious initial was applications were going down, right? Because refinances were going away. But really where I also saw it was I saw in the number of the number of leads it took to get a closed transaction. And so really, again, as I looked through those different areas, it was, I don't want to use the word obvious, but it was obvious for me that we were going to have to work harder to close more transactions the second half of the year. And guess what happened was everyone was burned out. No one wanted to work harder. And so transaction count went down. And then of course, now everyone's super motivated because they want to make a lot of money in 22. And guess what? Transaction count and activity is all up, right? Everything is going. But what you tend to find is, like I told my team, I knew for my team, January and February were going to be slow. How do I know that? Because their activity, September, October, November, December was slower. And so now that they're picking up activity greatly for the first month of the year, guess what? I just know for sure March, April, May will be a lot better than the first couple months of the year. And so really it's going to be just totaling the numbers and then looking at the conversion rates and seeing what can I learn from those numbers. Like, how did I do? Did I hit the commitment I set for myself? And it's, we're 8.3% over the year right now, right? 1 month, each month is 8.33% of the year. And I don't want anyone to be like, oh, I sucked the first month, I might as well screw my goals for 2022, right? That's not how we are here, right? Your goal is to figure out, how do I get myself back on track? And so that's why we're going to look at the activity and the results. And we're going to say, okay, well, if I needed to get, if I'm a loan officer, let's pretend I needed to get 15 applications last month to be on track to reach my goal, and I only got 10, then you've got to decide, right? What's my new goal for February? Now, if it was me and I was 5 short last time, I would make my goal for February 20. Okay. So let's talk about that. You can say, well, my goal is 15. I'm okay that I'm 5 behind. And then you can push it out and say, that's not what I'm going to do. But you already heard me say it. I'm a believer in setting a standard for myself. And if my standard was to get 15 applications in January, then guess what? I'm going to get 15 plus the 5 I didn't get in January for a total of 20 in February. And then I'm going to reverse engineer how many calls or how many quality conversations, those connections I talked about, did I have in January that got me 10 applications. And so let's pretend that that was, let me use a number I can divide in my head. Let's pretend that was 60. Okay. So 60 got me 2/3 of the way there. So what that tells me is that I need to increase by 50% my activity. So I'm going to actually do 105 calls, right? Does that make sense, my math? So I got 2/3 of what my goal was. And so therefore I need to increase my output by 50%. So I'm going to increase my upfront lead indicator, the activities, by that 50%. So I'm going to go from 60 calls or conversations to 105 calls or conversations. And then of course the question is, well, then who am I going to call, Todd? Well, that's where you're going to have to go to your database, right? If I'm a real estate agent, I'm going to be doing my CMA a day, and I'm going to be finding who else can I do CMAs for. Maybe I got to find, instead of doing 1 a day, I got to do 2 a day. If I'm a loan officer, I'm going to do my annual mortgage reviews, a TCA a day, right? That's low hanging fruit. Next thing I'm going to think about calling is, I'm just going to call my sphere, right? If I'm a real estate agent, right? You guys are doing 33 touches a year or whatever your number is. You guys are crushing on that. And I'm going to make those proactive calls. If you're new, you guys have heard me say it before, you're going to call friends and family, right? You're going to make a list. Who are the 150 people that know me, who like me, who will let me do these things for them? Because guess what, right there, if I need 105 calls and I have 150 friends, well, guess what? You can actually come out with a little bonus time. And again, what you're really trying to figure out is, who do they know, who knows who I want to know, right? If I'm calling if I'm doing a CMA for a client, I'm going to say, awesome. Hey, I'm really trying to get more feedback on this. Do you know anyone else who might benefit from this? You're going to ask for that referral. If I'm a loan officer, I'm going to ask the same thing. Hey, who else can I do an annual mortgage review for? Even if they got 2.5%, because again, you're just trying to build your database and adopt mortgages. And then if I'm a loan officer, I'm going to ask them, oh, by the way, who is your real estate agent? And they're going to tell me it was, Jane Doe. I'm going to say, awesome. Did you like Jane? And then assuming they say yes, I'm going to say, great. Will you make an introduction? And then they'll make the introduction. And then that's another phone call, right? That's how we're going to build up, flex our muscle and make the calls. And so the first thing is you have to have totaled your numbers. First, you had to have a goal, right? Second is you had to total your numbers. You're looking at your activities recorded. You're looking at the totals of your results. And then you're just figuring out, what did it take? How did I do? And if I'm behind, you're going to increase the activity so you can increase the result. If you're on target, then keep on with what you're doing. And then you're going to move down here to the review and the reflection part. And I actually really dig this part when I do it. And you have to spend time doing it. Now, I actually didn't do this yesterday. Again, full disclosure. Why? Because I was working on watching football, and I was working on a project with my wife. We're redoing a house, and I had to do some online shopping with her. And that was more important. I've got time actually set to do this tomorrow morning because I want to think about it, right? And you'll notice what this is. It's kind of a keep, improve, start, stop, right? KISS. So it's what worked for me last month. Where areas do I need to work on? What activities or projects or habits do I need to do, start doing? And then what is it I need to stop doing, right? Like, think about that. Like, I laugh. I have handwritten notes there. And so I don't laugh, but I've got 3 of them I wrote these probably 6 months ago, and I haven't mailed them yet, but it's a start to my handwritten note. And then I've got 100 books I bought over there that I bought more than a year ago. So again, this is just me being transparent with you, but I was traveling a bunch. But they are signed 10th anniversary of Darren Hardy's Compound Effect. And so, for me, for February, that's one of my goals, is to send those out and send out cards. So I've got 3 of them done. Except for the fact, actually, I can tell you when I wrote this last February. So it's been a year. So if I wait another month and send this, it'll be pretty good. Because I said, thanks for motivating me with your March magnificence. Can't say that word today. So it probably would have helped if I had numbers and all these things, but I don't have numbers really to show you guys and share with you on that. In fact, if anyone is brave enough, I would help you do this. I could do a call like this. You could come on here. I could use all your numbers, and we could run through them, and I could tell you based on your activity and your goals what you did last month, what you should be doing this month, I'm always happy to jump in there and do that. And so, and then the project status, again, I don't use the planner for my projects. But if you do, it's a great way just to say, hey, what are my projects and where am I working on that? And then as we look ahead, again, you're putting in here a big block. So I did this yesterday with my wife. By the way, I did notice that we have 2 Valentine's Days. We just wanted to get all you people who have a significant other out there 2 special days. Not quite sure how that happened, but we make mistakes here sometimes. But I put things in here like the Super Bowl, and I put that I'm going to see the Suns hopefully beat the Milwaukee Bucks, who beat them last year, on the 10th. And I put in here that I'm going to see a play on the 12th. And again, it's just looking ahead, right? The play was supposed to be on Super Bowl Sunday. So guess what? I called and moved it to the 12th this morning. And so again, you're looking ahead and seeing what are the personal things I'm going to do first and foremost. And then you're going to schedule in anything else that's going on around there. And then you're going to get back into what your weekend action plan for next week. And again, you're going to be doing that based off of how committed are you to your numbers. All right. All right, Roberta's gonna do that March 1st. You are a rock star, Roberta. All right, I'm gonna put that in there. So I'm gonna pencil that in right now into my calendar. It's called Win by Noon. So if we're gonna do that on March 1st, which is, it's actually gonna be, let's see here. We're gonna do it on, this is what I love about live. So we'll probably do it on, it'll be Monday the 28th. So I'm gonna write in Roberta as my guest. And then I'm going to put in the week before that, Roberta, is I'm going to call you so I can help you with this. Maybe we'll do it the next week, but let's just figure that one out. So I'm just going to put you in my calendar. Look at this. See, this is what you do so you don't forget these things. So I'm going to call you on Thursday, the 24th, and see how you're doing on this. And we'll decide whether we do it that following Monday or the Monday after that. Rockstar. Okay. So if you've been doing your numbers, right? We record activities, we track results. If you set a goal at the beginning of the year, now you're 8.3% into that. And the key is how committed are you at this point to those numbers, right? Because in the end, if you just fill in the blocks, the boxes and the lines, then you complete your monthly review and then you make your plan for this year. The question is there going to take clues from what happened to decide what you need to do? And I would tell you this, like for me personally, I've actually elevated the number of that I'm hitting, right? Like it's a minimum standard for me. So when I say I hit it, I'm not like, oh, I hit it. Oh, let's go have tea and biscuits for the rest of the day. I hit it. I keep going till I get done what it is I committed to get done that day. And where I find that people get kind of stuck is a little bit in the how, right? Like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? Like it's overwhelming. Mainly the who, like who am I going to call? And I already kind of gave you just a couple of hints, but again, if you're following the ideal week, right? So if you go into the Win by Noon user mastermind group, you can get a copy of this, whether for whatever group you're in. They're over in the file section. So when you go to the group in the top right, I think there's a button that says files and it pops open on the left. But again, when you're doing these calls, it makes it actually really easy to actually knock off your week because you just do those things, right? You call those people. Now you have to be organized, which means that you have to have your people in some kind of a database of some kind. And I would say if you don't have it, then just start with an Excel spreadsheet. If not, then use whatever CRM you have. And then you're going to total up the numbers. Where did I finish the quarter? How was that compared to my goal? Look at the difference and then do the math and figure out if I hit 90% of my goal, then I need to increase my activity by 10% to make up for the amount I didn't hit it. And don't be afraid to go over, right? Maybe you push yourself and say, all right, I'm already behind, right? Like my team is behind in closings. And again, I already said it, we're behind in closings because we sucked in the last quarter of last year. So I feel like we're going to go like this, and then we're going to peak and then hopefully keep going. And our goal is to peak up so high that we make up for back what's over here. And so even though my team is doing the activities right now that'll hit our goal at the end of the year, it's the closings are a lag, right? They happen backwards. So we're going to start off behind. Our first 2 months, I'll probably be too low. Maybe February we can catch up, we'll see. So it's totally the numbers, figuring out, well, what do I need to commit to for the next 4 weeks? Spoiler alert, February is the shortest month of the year. So you have 4 weeks to do it. And then you'll have a 5-week month at the end of the quarter. And so you kind of can cheat in that last 5 weeks, but actually it's gonna make you look even more behind for the first 2 months because of the fact that that fifth week isn't until the last week of the quarter. And that's the beauty of it is if you know it, if you know exactly what you need to do every week, now we know where we're at for the month. And if you're ahead, don't let your foot off the gas. You got to keep pushing through it all the way through the month of February. Because again, the more you can get ahead now, then those closings will happen, right? If you have more buyers and buyer appointments and listing appointments, eventually they're going to go under contract and the listings will sell. If you have more loan applications and pre-quals out, then eventually they're going to go under contract and they're going to close. Even in this tight market, it's going to happen. I know it. I got confidence in all of you. And so you just have to build it up now. And it's going to take extra work now. I mean, for me personally, I worked extra hard in January. And the crazy part about it, when I look at my numbers, is we had a holiday off in there, right? We had MLK off. And then I had 2 days that I was out of town. I went up to Seattle to record that podcast that I did with Ryan Hills, the RE Source TV. Check it out. It's the second one's out today. I watched the first few minutes of it, but I've already gotten people texting me saying that it was pretty good. Primarily because I talk about numbers and pretty much say kind of what I'm saying here is you can choose to either do it or not do it, right? But at least you know where you're going to come out. And sorry, my phone is in my pocket vibrating. So I'm trying to turn it off in case you wonder, I'm not squeezing my own butt. Okay, so Jack is asking me, where do we get the ideal week? So the ideal week, win by noon, user mastermind group in Facebook, click in the file section and you'll see that the ideal week for loan officers and for real estate agents is in there. And so again, I had to work extra hard because I had 3 days where I didn't work last month. So therefore I had to really bust ass the rest of the days to make sure that I exceeded my numbers, right? I exceed my numbers. And that way, transparently, if I like Thursday this week, I have date afternoon with my wife, right? And so I already know Thursday may be a day where I don't get all my activities done because I'm cutting off early to go have time with my wife. So guess what? I'm going to bust ass on Monday. I'm going to bust ass on Tuesday. I'm going to bust ass on Wednesday. So that Thursday, and I'm still going to try to hit my number on Thursday. And then worst case is I promise you this, I will make it up on Friday because I'm not going to go into the weekend and not have hit my minimum standard for what I do. And so that's the part where you have to make the decision for you. Are you going to be committed to the standard you set, or is it just a goal or a wish, right? I think that was my quote last week. What was it in Win by Noon? It was by some person that had a French name that I couldn't say. It says a goal without a plan is just a wish. And so knowing your numbers, that's the plan in order to hit your goal. So my goal is for these calls to be tactical, something that you can execute on. What other questions do you have before I kind of rant and kind of say that? I would say the other thing that I would say is that there's going to be times that are good and there's going to be times that are bad. There's going to be times that are easier and there's going to be times that are hard. And, I'm the first to tell you that, when COVID hit, everything came crashing down. Life got really busy and, I busted ass. I was super fired up. And I'm the first one to tell you that I spent the second half of last year distracted and not as committed to making the growth happen that I wanted to see by focusing on my numbers. So again, I'm always going to be transparent with you as a guy who is teaching this, that it's hard to do this every day. Now, I was distracted by good things, right? I did the Modern Mortgage Summit. I did the Modern Real Estate Summit. I had other things going on in my world that distracted me, and I let it be my excuse, right? And so as I head into 2022, fired up, I scheduled time off. I think part of the reason that I got burned out was because I didn't schedule enough unplugged, away from the thought of work time. And so when I went back to that calendar and I said, hey, schedule your big rocks first, right? So my wife and I sat down yesterday and this calendar is a wreck because I printed this pretty early last year. But, again, you guys know this, I've got my calendar out and we're looking at spring breaks and fall breaks. And I've got, seminars in there I can go to. And, we're trying to take this big family adventure and we're like, shoot, we're renovating the house and literally it's going to be done here. And probably now not until April, which means we're probably really not going to leave on our family adventure right in the beginning of May. We might only do it June and July. We got all sorts of things, but we sat there and looked at it to make sure that we get the time to unplug, to refresh and recharge. And so that's why I said that's one of the things you want to look at each quarter. That's why when I looked at my week and we said, hey, we're tired at night. We're we're getting old, sorry. And so I was like, well, should we go out on, my wife's like, well, let's go out in the afternoon. Like, we're so much better to plan this kind of stuff. So that's part of what we're going to be doing, is doing some planning. So we're going to do it in the late afternoon when we've got a little bit more energy to do it. And then we'll have dinner. And so I think that's the encouragement that I would have when I look back, because I'm very reflective, right? You got to learn from the past. I said, well, why did that happen to me? Again, had the events, 2 events that did it. And then it was just really, we didn't take any time to ourselves because it was just pandemic time and we just didn't do what we should have done. And so that's my encouragement for all of you, is that as you're making sure you're looking forward, because if you think about it, I typically set myself up for a 48-week year. I like to take 4 weeks of vacation in the year. But set yourself up for 50 weeks of a year and then do your numbers based off of that. If you do your numbers based off of 52 weeks, you're going to take time off, then you're going to come up short. And then if something comes up, you have to push it. If you're only going to work 4 days a week, you're going to have to do 5 days of work and 4 days a week, if that's what your standard is. And so that's really, kind of my encouragement for the day. My encouragement for the day is, even though the year's 8.3% over, we still have 91.7% of the year left. We can still kick ass this year. We can still reach whatever your goals are this year, but you have to know where you're going, right? You have to know what's the plan to get there. So again, if your goal is out here, you're still not here anymore. We moved over to here, and we know what we have to do to get there if we just take the time to total up our numbers. Now, if you didn't do a great job on your numbers in January, no big deal, right? Best day to start tracking your numbers for the year would have been January 1st. The next best day to start is today, right? And then that way, when you get to the end of this month, then you can totally crush it. So I hope that is helpful. I knocked it out in less than 30 minutes. That's kind of my goal for these calls. I'm working, just so you guys know, on trying to get a real estate agent on in the next week or two to talk about how they're doing CMAs, just to give us a little bit of a perspective there. I think that will be a great call for loan officers and real estate agents. And then I'm just going to keep come up with ideas that I think are tactical to help you grow as we go into this year. And even though the calendar invite says an hour, guess what? Some days we will go an hour. My goal is typically going to be 30 minutes, unless I'm interviewing someone. Then I'll drag out every little bit of knowledge that person has in order to make sure that we really crush it. And just want to know that I appreciate you guys for taking the time to be here, because your time is your most valuable commodity. So if you haven't done your monthly review yet, take 30 minutes now and do it. You're here, you invested in yourself. So let's take some action. Let me know if you have any other suggestions or anything else I can be of help. Look forward to seeing you guys next week.